Hello everyone. In this first video of my playlist Python, NumPy, and SciPy, I'm going to talk about I/O basics or input-output basics from and to the monitor and keyboard. Python, if you want to display something on the monitor, you can use the command print, and if you want to get something from the user, use the command input. And unlike C++, you do not need to use any library like IOStream or anything. So you can just go ahead and directly use these commands. Now, one important thing that we always recommend everybody to use for programming is comments. So a person who has not written the code has an idea of how the code is written and what each part of the code is doing. So if you want to comment out a single line in Python, you can use the pound sign, and if you want to comment several lines of code, then use three separate quotation marks on the top and on the bottom, and make sure you always put both on the top and on the bottom. If you just put it on the top, nothing at the bottom of the block, then you will get an error. So make sure if you start a code that is a block that is commented, you terminate it at the bottom with another three single quotation marks. Now here I'm using the Python IDE, and the color, as you can see, for a block of code that is commented is going to turn green, and for a single line it's going to turn red. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at some basic communications with the user. So the command print will show a text to the user, but it's not just a text. You can combine variables, numbers, and anything, and you can show a complicated text with it, right? So it acts like the cout command in C++ or fprintf command in MATLAB, and you can combine text, variables, numbers, and everything and make it very complicated. Now, we have a separate video on strings, but in Python, whether you use double quotation or use single quotation, both of them counts as strings, right? So whether you say hello world with double quotation or you say hello world with single quotation, both of them are strings, okay? There is no major difference between them. So it's up to you which one to use. Typically, they use double quotation here as well, but just wanted to let you know. The other thing important is, unlike MATLAB or specifically C++, you do not need to terminate any command line by a semicolon, okay? No semicolon is needed. And if you do, actually, you will get an error. So Python, we'll see later, the indication for something is based on indentation of the lines, that something is a starting or finishing and so on, and there is no need for any semicolon or anything like that. So here I'm saying print for me, hello Engineering Educator Academy fans, EEA fans, and then in one line, and then automatically the control goes to the next line, and now I'm saying we are going to learn Python together, and then I use \n, so not only the control goes to the next line, actually it goes to the line after that, and I leave a gap. So let me run this here for you using F5. So by the way, this guy here on the right side, this window is called the IDLE shell, Python shell, where you can see the result of computing or executing codes. Okay, so here I go and run, and you see here that, look, this is the first line. I did not use any \n, and the cursor automatically went to the second line. And then in the second line, you show the text, and then instead of the cursor coming here and running the rest of my code, the cursor actually leaves one line of space or blank behind and then goes to the next line. So each print command automatically will take you to the next line. When the text of it is finished, it goes to the next line. If you use \n here, then you have an extra line of blank. Okay, just keep that in mind. Now you might say, sometimes I need to show a large basically line but I want to use two print commands. So I want to show a long line of message, but I don't want to, I want to break that line message between two print commands. So is there any way that I don't go to the start of the next line once I use a print command? And the answer is yes. What you need to do is when you show that text at the end of it, use a comma and then say end equals space. So here you're saying instead of at the end going to the next line, give it a space and then basically start the next line of command. Don't go to the next line, stay there, just add a single space. And this is what you can see here. Right? You see now I have shown everything in one line and I only added a single space here. That's all I have done. Okay, so you can write a line message in one line, but using several print commands if you use this method. Now here, I'm gonna ask user to give me something. I say, hey, you give me your name, input your name, give it to me, and then it does. And then I call it name, and then I add hello to that name and print it back. Look here. So I say Mehran, right? My own name, and then it says, hello, Mehran. And then I add an extra space here by print empty. So here I'm not going to pass anything to the print command, and I get this extra line of empty blank between hello Mehran and the next number. Okay, you see that area here? That is as a result of this. So you can create a blank line either using this print or using this \n. These are different ways to do it. And what did I do here? As you can see now, I'm combining a fixed text with what, or string with some variable. So if I enter something different for name, that message would be different, right? So you see I can combine. But here, name, when I get it as input command, name is going to be a string variable. And here I'm combining one string with another string. So what I'm doing here is actually called concatenation. And we're going to see that in the strings. By the way, if I want to do concatenation, can I, instead of comma, can I use plus? Can I say hello plus name? The answer is yes. So whether here you said hello comma name or hello plus name, the answer would be basically the same thing. The only thing you have to pay attention is here I have added a space, so I have a space here. Okay, if I didn't, then I would not get that space. And the next thing I want to show you using the print command is the precision of the display. Here I have the Euler number, and instead of using 3 decimals, I want to show this number with 2 decimals. So I have this print control, which is I don't care how many numbers before the decimals, but after the decimal I want 2. After the decimal point I want 2 decimals, so I say 0.2f, and f means it's a floating point, right? And 0.2 means using 2 decimals. And then I say %e. Okay, so you see I'm using percent in a text, and then I say %e. If you want, I can add something to it. I say Euler number using 2 decimals equals, and then percent, this percent is a placeholder, so I know inside that text here I have to insert a number. And what is that number? That number is this e, and by this % before that I indicate that it should go here. Okay, so let me do it again. Let me stop the control of this code by Control C, so you can do Control C and break the code. And here I go and run it again. Right, so here I use some other name. Let's say one of them, your name is Joe. So it says hello Joe, and now you see here it says Euler number using 2 decimals equals 2.72, and I can change it to 1 decimal, 3 decimal, or as many as I want. Okay, so this is a print control and print precision using this % sign, and then the type of the variable, and then the number of decimals before and after. Here I don't care about before, so I just left it as without any number. The next thing I want to show you is here I'm going to ask user to give me 2 numbers, x and y, which are the 2 sides of a right triangle, and I want to print back the hypotenuse. Okay, so I want to turn back the hypotenuse. Now the important thing is this: when you use the input command, and I enter some number instead of a string like Joe, if I enter some number for X or Y, the command input will convert those numbers into strings always. So the command input always brings in strings. And I cannot use two strings and raise them to them some power and then take the square root or something. I have to convert those strings from the input command back to the number. So here we do something called typecasting, which you have seen me doing in other videos in MATLAB and C++. And I'm going to do it in my next video on variables, but just wanted to let you know. So here I put the result of this input command, I put it inside parentheses, and then before that I say float. It means convert that strings for me to what? To a float number. Or I can say integer, depending on what the user is going to give me. But I let it float so it can have decimals too. So I convert them into numbers X and Y, and now what do? I raise X to the power 2, I raise power Y to the power 2, I square them and raise the whole thing to the power 1/2. And by the way, power in Python is double asterisk, it's not a caret. And it's not the pow command like C++. In here, double asterisk means power. So I'm calculating the hypotenuse, call it Z, and then look here. I'm going to show a complicated text again on the screen using the print command. I say hypotenuse of a right triangle with sides of, and here I leave some space, some braces. This is the place that X should go, and another brace empty that the Y should go is, and then another brace where Z should go. And then I use this command format, which we're going to learn in strings more. But here, dot format is going to take the values of X, Y, and Z, and it is going to replace them in order in this one, and this one in the what? In the big text, and it's going to show the results over there. So here, look, I say one side is 3, the other side is 4, and look, it says hypotenuse is what? With size of 3 and 4 is 5. So you clearly see what it is doing. And look here, although I entered integers basically, but it converted them into double for me. And the result of operation on double, float, sorry, convert them into float, and the results of operations on float is another float here. We'll talk about doubles and floats, right? In Python, you really do not have a double, you have floats basically. So Python is a very easy language. That's one of the advantages of Python is it's an extremely easy language to learn. I can say that is as simple as MATLAB. Maybe some people call it simpler. It's very easy language, very, very effective. That's the #1 language in computer science these days, artificial intelligence, machine learning, computer vision, and so on. The big thing about it, it is free. The other big thing, you can run it on all sorts of operating systems, and it has a ton of libraries these days. Unlike C++, it's and similar to MATLAB, it's extremely good for visualization and so on. So if you do not use MATLAB and you are not super concerned about the speed of the operation and the speed of the code, I would say Python is extremely good. It's very, very good language. And just like MATLAB, Python is an interpreted language. It's not compiled. So it is very good for prototyping code and checking whether the code is working or not and changing it and interaction with it. But of course, like MATLAB, it's not as fast as C++, okay? So it has its own applications, right? Just wanted to give you a little bit, very, very brief, fast overview of Python. My goal is not here is to talk half an hour about the advantages of Python and stuff like that. So if you are here, I'm sure you know about why Python is good or so on. So here you see that is the number here. Now the last thing I want to show you for this video is, you see here I got X and Y separately in 2 different input commands. Can I get both of them in one single input command? The answer is yes. Look, this time I do it this way. So I say X and Y is equal to input the values. So I get the values from the user, but both of them, not one. I split it That's one of the things you learn in strings. You split that. So split means if they are separated by, and if there is nothing inside the split, means there is a white space between the numbers. So I type my numbers like what? I type them like X space Y in the command window or in the shell, right? In the Python shell. So I say, hey, take this, split it where the numbers are separated by space. And now these numbers are, of course, strings, as we know from the input command. Then do what? For each number, for each value in this input, in the set of input, convert it to what? To integer. So you see here, I'm doing so many things in one single line. Look, I'm showing a message. I'm getting both numbers separated by space. I'm splitting it into X and Y, but both are strings. Then, using a for loop here, I'm going to convert each and every one of those two strings into an integer. If you don't like integer, you say what? You say float. Convert them into a float. And then what? I'm assigning them back to X and Y. And by the way, when I assign something to several variables like this, I do not need any bracket or anything around them like you do in MATLAB. You do it in brackets, right? Or some languages you might do parentheses or so on. In Python, there is nothing around them. You just separate them by a comma. That's all you need to do. Okay, so you see how many things I'm doing in a single line here, and that is one of the advantages and powers of this simple language. So this time I'm gonna do it again, but I'm gonna do what? I'm gonna do reading of both variables in a single line. So let's go ahead and do it again. So here it says, what's your name? This time we use another person. Let's say George, right? And here it says, hello, George. Your little number using 2 decimals is that. Now enter the values. Here I have to be more specific. Values of what? But here 3 and 4. And you see I have what? I have the message, right? So you see it is working fine. So I would say instead of the values, I say the sides of a right triangle. Okay, this is a lot more descriptive, I would say, compared to what I have intervalues. Yeah, that's not the best thing to do. So you see it worked just fine. And now if I want to separate these two numbers by a comma instead of a space, all I need to do inside the split, I need to say they are separated by a comma. And since that comma is a string character, I have to put it in what? In double quotations to tell the interpreter that the numbers are going to be separated by a comma, not by a space. So this is going to do the exact what? Same thing. And by the way, in general, there is not a beautiful clear screen command for the shell. Okay, I looked a bunch and I have seen so many different things, but none of them really work so well. So if you want to clean this mess and start from fresh, my best idea for you is go ahead and close the window, as simple as that, and run it again. And now you're going to get it fresh. To me, that's the easiest way, to be honest. I know it's not super elegant and it's quite a bit lazy, but in Python, a command like clear screen, I have seen so many things with time and sleep and operating system clear command and so on, and I tried all of them and none of them really so far worked for me. So I say that is a good solution. So here we do it one last time, and this time let's say a girl's name this time, so Nicole for example, and say hello Nicole, and then Euler with 2 decimals, enter the size of a right triangle, so this time say 3 and 4 with comma, and you get the same answer, right? So you clearly can see that I can get more than one variable from the inputs. I can do typecasting on them, and I can do anything, and I can look at the way they are split. So this is your print command, your input command, some comments and some other important things. Hopefully this first video is useful to you. I have 26 at the moment, 26 more lectures on Python. NumPy and SciPy, which are two very important libraries for Python that I'm going to add to my channel. So hopefully you keep watching my videos. Thank you.